Hello, everyone. Hello, Jordan. Congratulations on our very first live stream on your YouTube channel. It's so good to see you. I'm excited that we get this opportunity today.
This will be fun and interactive because people can ask questions and hopefully give them some on-time impact.
Absolutely. So for anybody who will be joining us, feel free to drop a comment or question. We will be able to pull it up and answer them in real time. We're going to kind of do a deeper dive than we usually do with our videos. And again, just a reminder to everybody, you have such a great video library on your YouTube. Today, we're going to be talking about how to reduce taxes in your portfolio and whether you should claim Social Security at 62. Two questions among many, Jordan, that you field often, but I think that those two subjects are generally where people want to do a deeper dive. Is that what you find?
Yeah, it's a big topic. So a lot of people are wondering, should I take Social Security early? Should I delay? How do I pay the least amount in taxes? And we want to give some good insight. And hopefully we'll get some high level, but hopefully people want to kind of learn more and maybe talk one-on-one how we can create a plan for them for family.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's jump into our first topic. And again, if you have any questions at any point, feel free to put them in. I will be monitoring that as we go. But let's talk about how to reduce taxes in your portfolio, because I feel like a lot of us have heard about asset allocation before, but just as important is, of course, asset location, where you keep your assets. In a tax advantaged account or a traditional brokerage can significantly lower the tax bite in your portfolio. So let's start high level. When we talk through tax advantaged accounts, I think a lot of us have heard of an IRA before. Can you talk through the unique benefits of having a traditional versus a Roth IRA?
Yeah, so in a traditional IRA, that money is going to continue to grow tax deferred. When you put money in, you get a tax deduction, and it grows tax deferred, and you get that compound interest. Then over time, when you take withdrawals, you have to pay taxes when you take that money out. So if you're making a lot of income right now, high earner, it might make sense to put more money in an IRA or a traditional 401k to kind of lower that taxable impact. And then in the future, maybe you have less income, then you can take that money out and pay less taxes. Or some people, it makes sense to put more money in a Roth right now because they feel like taxes are going to be a lot higher in the future, or based on their unique circumstances, they want to do either more contributions to Roth or conversions to Roth because they want to set themselves up to pay less taxes in the future because they think tax rates are going up. We believe, and I think most people believe, tax rates have to go up. We had stimulus, we have national debt. If you want to even show the national debt as of the second, it is rising at a rapid rate. Someone has to pay these taxes and pay down this debt. So when we do good planning and tax planning, we want to look at how do we help you save the least or save the most amount of taxes over your lifetime, not just over the next couple of years. So for a lot of people, we are leaning more to Roth, but it just depends on your individual situation.
Yeah, boy, Jordan, I look at that visual and it gives me such anxiety to see our debt creeping up like that. And I want to say a special welcome, Jordan. We have 13 people who are watching us right now. So again, welcome. Feel free to drop a question anytime you'd like. We are still talking through how to reduce taxes in your portfolio. Jordan, you just talked through the tax advantages of an IRA. Now let's talk through tax loss harvesting. This is a topic that generally comes up, I feel like, during the end of the year, but can you explain how this works, please?
Yeah, we do a lot of tax planning in the fourth quarter, but basically if you have a appreciated stock, but maybe you have a few stocks that haven't done so well, you can kind of sell off some of those, in a sense, loser stocks, or they actually lost some money, offset that with maybe some of the ones that have won money to not pay any taxes. Or you might have some stocks that you just want to get rid of. There's kind of some dogs that you want to kind of deduct that off your tax return. The max per year you can deduct is $3,000. You do have to be careful, as we see in the graphic with the wash rule. You can't just sell a stock and then buy it if it's within 30 days. We have to be conscious of that. But ultimately, these little tweaks have big tax impacts, and we want to make sure we look at all the things when it comes to your tax plan to maximize each of those hard-earned dollars.
Absolutely. All right, now let's drill down into asset location. Dividends and other cash distributions are typically taxable in the year you receive them. So to minimize the tax burden on dividends, consider where you hold your investments. What do we need to know here?
Yeah, we would like people to be diversified, not just from an investment standpoint, but from a tax standpoint. And when you have higher income generating assets like dividend stocks, structured notes, maybe bonds, you might want to have those in a tax advantage IRA or Roth IRA, depending on your situation.
Mhm.
You're not triggering that taxable income each and every year, and you have more control when you want to pay the tax or don't want to pay the tax. Now, if that's inside a traditional brokerage account or a non-qualified account, you're paying taxes on that little bit of interest or that dividends or that capital gains each and every year, and that could actually diminish your real returns. Some people even think about, they like CDs these time of days because they have a little bit higher interest rates than a few years ago. But maybe if you even make 4% in a CD, if you have it in a non-qualified account, you're paying taxes on that. So your net growth is actually about 3% potentially, and you're barely, if not even keeping up with inflation. So if you're generating income, try to make sure they're in a tax advantage account or be strategic of how you do that.
All right. And we haven't received any questions yet, Jordan. I think it's because you're doing such a great job explaining. But again, as they come up, feel free to drop it in the comments. Now let's talk through how to take advantage of long-term capital gains tax rates here. With strategic planning, very proactive planning as well, there is a potential for a 0% tax rate.
Wouldn't we all love to be in a 0% tax rate?
I would love that.
It's possible. It doesn't happen for every client, but basically based on your capital gains, if you have less income or maybe more income from Roths, which don't contribute to this, you actually can pay 0% on some of those capital gains. So again, it does based on each year, we kind of look at this. You can see the graphics based if you're single or married, but for some people, they can pay either 0 or even reduce 15% on those capital gains. One thing that doesn't show on this graph is if you have maybe a highly appreciated stock, let's say Nvidia or Tesla or some of those big tech companies, and say you don't need that income and you don't need to sell it, you can let that grow in a non-qualified account, and upon death, your beneficiaries get what's called a step-up basis, which the children can sell off that stock and legally pay no taxes on that. So we look at not only while you're alive, how do we minimize the capital gains, but also part of your overall plan. If you want to leave a legacy, you might want to leave some of those stocks alone and let them keep on growing to transfer that wealth, maybe even tax-free.
Right. I love, Jordan, that you are always thinking about families, how the families are affected, and of course, legacy planning. I'm just wondering, are there any other options when it comes to saving money on taxes? Because of course, it's not what you get, it's what you keep in the end.
Yeah, and everyone's in a different life position, right? For
Yeah.
some people, they might want to consider 529s for college education. For some people, maybe they're making so much money, they're phased out or they can't do more than the max in the 401k or traditional IRA. So sometimes we look at section 7702 of our tax code, which is specifically designed life insurance to kind of grow your assets, tax deferred, and then we can take income out of that tax free and never kind of have to worry about paying taxes on that income. So it's a great way to use the tax code to our advantage. There's a reason why a lot of politicians and ultra wealthy people use life insurance. It's not just to protect their family in case of a premature death. It's really for the tax advantages to make sure they can leverage that tool to get more tax-free income for their family.
I forget the exact number of pages. It's something like 75,000 plus pages or more of tax code, and the wealthy use every single sentence to their advantage. So that's what it's
There's
about.
loopholes in everything, and we
Yeah.
just want to make sure we follow things by the book, but we also want to make sure we save our clients the most money in taxes, because nobody usually names a beneficiary to the IRS or the state of Illinois. You pull this chart up, tax planning is really what separates us than most firms. Most advisors, or financial planners, they say, oh, I just do investments, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. And we take that seriously. We want everyone to get those competitive returns and maximize your growth with minimizing risk. But what good is what you make if you're giving it right back to the IRS? So tax planning's in the center. We integrate that with all our investment choices and options. We integrate that with the income plan. A lot of people worry about running out of money. Well, we have a plan so they won't run out of money, but we also got to make sure we don't hit different brackets or maybe have different Medicare excess premium thresholds. And I know I'm diverting here, but it's open enrollment and our Medicare team is working hard. And if you have any Medicare questions, if you ask, I may not be able to answer, but our Medicare team can get back to you and help you out.
Yeah, your Medicare team is rather impressive. And then just to do a nice little segue, part of, creating this holistic financial plan is income planning. We can't talk about income planning without talking about Social Security, which is where we are going to move next. Again, though, we have a great number of viewers. Thank you so much for joining us live. And of course, hello to everybody who's watching us on the replay. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments and put Jordan in the hot seat so he can answer them on the spot. I know he can do it well. So let's pivot over now to Social Security, Jordan. Again, one of the most important financial decisions you will make in retirement. A lot of people wonder if they should claim at 62. So let's talk through the pros and cons, because claiming at 62, of course, may sound appealing, but it comes with trade-offs like reduced lifetime benefits and the Social Security earnings test if you are still working. So I was surprised to learn 1/3 of people claim Social Security as soon as they're eligible at 62. It's known as panic claiming. Why is that?
Well, there's a lot of news out there that Social Security is going under. We see on even the statements in 2036, they're not going to have the funding. And a lot of people are like, I want my money out now. And for some people, to be frank, that might make sense. But for some people, that may not make sense. And there's a lot of different things you have to overlay when you time Social Security claiming. But say you have some medical conditions and maybe your family history, no one lives past 65 or 67. For a lot of those cases, yes, I would say claim it at 62. But if you have a plan or maybe you're still working, you probably want to rethink taking it early, because you're going to really kill yourself in some benefits for the long term, and you're going to pay more taxes on that as well. So we want to have a plan that not only gets you the biggest pile from Social Security, but it also pays the least amount of tax on Social Security. And we have to overlay your health history as well and how you're doing today.
And just to underscore for people who are watching today, Jordan, I think a lot of us see those Social Security calculators online. That is generally not sufficient. This really needs to be more than just a calculation, as I say it. It needs to be a conversation, right?
It does need to be a conversation. And we have people that come in, oh, I have a spreadsheet and my break even's 9 years and I'm going to take it. And it's like, okay, that might be actually true. But what it doesn't factor in is your entire other portfolio, your financial plan. It doesn't factor in your health. It doesn't factor in the tax impacts of the Social Security. And those are the things that have to overlay before we can give you that real good advice and provide that financial leadership. Because ChatGPT, Google, they can give you information, but they don't have the big picture, and they aren't able to discern these other things that maybe are blind spots for people before they take Social Security.
Right. Okay. So now let's talk through the math. Can you explain how much you actually give up in monthly benefits by claiming at 62 compared with waiting until full retirement age or waiting until even 70?
It's going to depend on each person, but basically it's a 30% reduction if you do take it at 62. And then after your full retirement age, it's about an 8% compound that growth to wait to 70. Now, you can kind of see that in the chart. The longer you wait, great, you get the biggest paycheck, but that doesn't always mean you get the biggest pile of money. Because if you wait till 70, great, I feel good, I got a big paycheck. But if you passed away, God forbid, at 75, you didn't get the biggest pile of money. So we not only have to overlay it per individual, we got to overlay it per the spouse. Because a lot of times people come in and again, sometimes one spouse is taking the lead financially and their Social Security benefits a lot higher than the other spouse. Well, the other spouse, it's not like they didn't work. They were raising the family, helping in the household, and their career earnings weren't as high. So they have a reduced, Social Security benefit. So if that higher earner takes it sooner, and God forbid they pass away or one spouse passes away, you don't get both benefits. You get higher of the two. So your kind of income goes down. And then you go from a tax filing married to a tax filing single status, which means your taxes effectively double. So we got to look at all these different components before we decide whether to take Social Security sooner or later.
And the permutations, it's really incredible to look at how many combinations there are when you are married, right? And that's why claiming when you are married is even more important.
Yeah, while you're married, you got to really think through this, because you're not only thinking about yourself, you're thinking about your spouse, you're thinking about your family. How can I maybe tweak things, or hey, maybe I take mine sooner, but now my spouse has a higher benefit because she can take half of my Social Security benefits, and maybe that makes a lot more sense mathematically than just waiting to 70. You have more income now. Plus, again, I said this a few times, we have to overlay your health. and kind of how you're physically doing, because what you don't want to do is just wait to 70, delay, and then you're not enjoying life. Because a lot of people, statistically, the more guaranteed income they have on, the longer they live, one, but the better they live too. So we don't want to wait to enjoy life and turn on that Social Security. Then you kind of get to that age and now you can't physically do the things you want to do. So we have to overlay so many components to make sure not just the individual, but the spouse and the family is well positioned for the long term.
Right. Well, and this just goes to state the obvious here. If we knew the day we were leaving this planet, then we could calculate the exact day that you should claim Social Security. I mean, it's the same for retirement planning, right? How do we plan for and decide when to claim Social Security when we have no known end date?
We don't, and that's something we do planning, right? We can't predict the future, but we can kind of plan for the future. Whether we live a long life or shorter life, we have to use some best judgment and numbers. But if we don't know that date, we have to make sure we look at the overall mathematics, look at your health, look at your plan, look at the taxes, and make an educated decision. But we don't want to just leave it up to chance or take it at 62 blindly.
Right. And so again, as we continue to talk through right now the pros and cons of claiming Social Security at 62, I think something that surprises a lot of people, Jordan, who claim early at 62, which is claiming at 62 is considered claiming early. Sometimes people are still working and claiming Social Security, and the government does not like that. That brings in the Social Security earnings test. Can you explain how this affects people who continue working after claiming early?
Yeah, first I'll say, some people think I can double dip, I can take Social Security and work and get the best of both. Well, if you're before full retirement age, you can technically do that, but the Social Security is going to claw back dollars for different thresholds for how much you make, as you can kind of see in this chart. So generally speaking, you should not take Social Security while you're still working. Plus, while you're still working, what does that mean? That means you might have higher income. So that money that you take from Social Security, now more of that's going to pay taxes on it. So you want to make sure that you don't claim it usually while you're still working. And maybe you took your Social Security at 65 for whatever reason, and you actually did stop working. And then a few months later, someone offered you a dream job. Well, maybe you want to take that job. People don't always know there's kind of a one-time you can do a mulligan when it comes to Social Security, and you can pay back what you already got from Social Security. It goes retroactive back into that growth of the Social Security. And then you can kind of turn on Social Security at a later date because you found that dream job, and now you have more income that you don't need that Social Security benefit. So there's a lot of different things you have to put into the equation, but generally speaking, don't turn your Social Security on while you're still working.
And what happens to those withheld benefits?
So it's not like it's gone forever. It does get amortized back into your Social Security benefit. But statistically speaking, it's not worth working while you're turning on Social Security. You're losing that growth. You're taking a reduction. You're paying more in taxes. But that does get refactored into your lifetime Social Security and your monthly benefits. But it's not like it's just gone completely.
So Jordan, you've touched on this, but let's just take the time to go a little bit deeper. What should we consider before deciding if we should be claiming at 62 versus waiting?
Well, you can't decide anything, Erin, unless you have a plan. And a lot of people just look at Social Security as one sliver, or they might have an investment over here they look at, or this account over here. We want to look at all of your accounts. We want to look at your Social Security benefits. We need to look at your expenses. We need to look at what is your passion, what is your purpose, what are your goals in your life. And then when we create a plan around all those things, that will give us the guidance and the clarity and confidence to know that this is when we take Social Security and this is why. But you can't do that without a plan. And taxes, investments, income, healthcare, and legacy, that has to be part of a plan. And so many people today go to many different people for these different things, whether they go to a Medicare person for Medicare advice, they go to someone for long-term care advice, they go to an attorney for legal advice, they go to their tax accountant to prepare their returns. But very few people have a tax planner. And that's what really separates us. Yes, we do investments. Yes, we do income planning, but we do tax planning and we do tax preparation. And I think that's the biggest value, especially where we are now with these lower tax rates, probably for the next 4 years. We have to take advantage of these lower rates and do effective tax planning to make sure we keep more of that Social Security and don't give it back to the IRS. And again, just to put some facts behind that, we look at the tax rates over the last few decades. we are at very historical lows. When I give presentations in front of 50 or 100 people, I ask, does anyone think taxes will be lower in 10 years? And not one person
No.
will be
Yeah.
lower. So we all know it's going to be higher. The problem is knowledge is one thing, but application of that knowledge is true wisdom. And we need to apply that knowledge when it comes into a plan and provide that financial leadership. And that does change the philosophy, because a lot of times accountants, they're just history teachers, and they look back at the tax documents, what you owe and what you get back maybe as a refund. Very few are looking long term. How do you save the most amount of taxes? And what that does sometimes require is paying more taxes now to pay less taxes in the long term. And that is a little bit of a mindset shift.
Right. Because we have the time, and because Social Security is such, a complicated calculation and, again, conversation, I want to talk through, Jordan, maybe what you think might happen, because we talk about the insolvency of the Social Security Trust Fund. And as you mentioned, it's on everybody's statement that in, I believe it's 2034, benefits will be reduced by 23%. What do you think will happen? An increase in retirement age, increased taxes on Social Security.
Yeah.
What should we be expecting to see within the next decade or two when it comes to our Social Security benefits?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball and I can't predict the future, but from my personal opinion, I feel like right now, people don't always know this, that people are taxing the Social Security at earnings up to about $177,000. And after you kind of hit that threshold in earnings, you no longer pay into Social Security. And now that you're showing the taxable portion of it, but I'm talking when you earn money, you kind of are paying into Social Security, but that has a cap. And a lot of people don't realize that. So the people that are making $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 plus a year, no offense, they're not hurting for those Social Security benefits. And what I think will happen in the next 10 years is they're going to raise that threshold dramatically to get more money from Social Security. And it's really not going to impact the people that really rely on Social Security as Americans, but it's going to kind of create more taxes for the higher earners. So they're going to help fund that Social Security Trust Fund. Now, that being said, even though we have a lot of baby boomers turning on Social Security over the next few years, in the next few decades, we have a bigger workforce that will be paying more and more into Social Security. So we might see it go down like this. We might raise taxes on the higher earners, and then the population will kind of grow and kind of help supply that Social Security for the long term. Too many Americans rely on Social Security right now. It is not going to be going away. But for some of our clients, they're still nervous about it. So we say that's stress tested. Let's see, what if your Social Security benefits do drop by 25%? Are you still going to be okay? And instead of worrying and wondering, do I have enough, or is that Social Security going to be there? What if we put that inside your plan? And even if the government hypothetically did drop it by 25%, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you're still in a great place. You can still have the confidence and clarity to continue to enjoy life and do what you want to do with your money. So I personally think they're going to raise taxes. I think it's going to stabilize, but I also think personally the government wants you to take it at 62. Why? They can pay reduced benefits. Yeah. And I think that's where they save a lot of money by using, in a sense, some scare tactics, saying that that fund will not be funded in 2034 and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Again, Jordan, special hello to everybody who is watching us live and joining us. Thank you. It's good to see you. So glad to have you with us. And if you have any questions about anything that we've been talking through, feel free to drop them in the comments. And Jordan, I'm wondering, you have the opportunity, you and your team, you go out in the community a lot to do educational seminars regarding retirement planning. Are there any questions that come up time and again that you'd like to answer today for our audience?
Yeah, and one question I kind of have from a lot of people is, hey, where can I put my money where it's safe, but can still get a competitive return?
Yeah.
And, some people think that you have to take a lot of risk to get a lot of return. Like you need to put your money in NVIDIA, these high AI and tech stocks to get good returns. And then some people think if you take very little risk, you can't get very high returns. Well, you actually can take very little or no market risk and still get very competitive returns even over 10%. You just don't know what you don't know. So we kind of show people, and not that you should ever have any of your assets all in one bucket or one type of asset class, but there is alternative investments and different strategies that maybe you haven't heard of where you can make double-digit returns and not have a lot or any market risk, but it has to fit as part of your plan. one thing we try to do is that we lead with a plan, and then products and investments fit inside that. But people are kind of maybe content with CDs, or they kind of like that safety. But I refer to CDs sometimes as certificates of disappointment, because they're not really keeping up with inflation, and they could be paying taxes on that, which diminishes your return, where you have to think outside the box, so to speak, and use other investment types to still get you that safety, but still get the competitive returns that maybe you didn't know about.
Mm-hmm. And one of those options might be something that we've talked about before, Jordan, which is they're called structured notes, which isn't something that you can go down to your local bank and buy. Is this something, Jordan, that people should maybe be considering as well?
Yeah, structured notes have its place. Again, we're not trying to promote any one investment type, because we have to learn about you and see the plan. But structured notes, many people, when we give presentations in the community, they never even heard of. So it's
Right.
actually a debt instrument issued by big banks. And the ones that we negotiate for our clients, we like to have the guaranteed yields, and they usually range from 8 to 15% on average, right? And each one of these structured notes has kind of a barrier that if the markets don't drop more than 30%, you're still going to get that 8 to 15% yield. And again, looking at history, the markets don't drop more than 30% a lot, but there's some level of risk to these. But especially for people near in retirement, what do they want? They want income. So that income that it generates, it pays on a monthly basis. And it's, you're looking at double the returns of CDs, if not triple. And even though they have market risk, we try to manage that risk by never putting all your money into one note. We ladder these over times to reduce your risk and generate that competitive income and those competitive returns that I think our clients deserve.
Mm-hmm. And what else do we need to cover today, Jordan, as we do one final push to encourage anyone with questions to please drop them in the comments. Again, we are here for you. Jordan is in the hot seat, ready to take your questions. And as people think that through, Jordan, what else do we need to touch on today?
Yeah, I got a few emails to someone. I'm on live. I'm like, it's okay if you're shy, but ask questions. We can kind of populate that in the YouTube. But I think when you choose to work with an advisor, I think this is kind of big. Make sure whoever you work with, they are leading with tax planning. And if they're not, and if they aren't giving you tax advice for every kind of recommendation, you need to ask them, why aren't you giving me tax advice? Why aren't you educating me on how this IRA distribution, or excuse me, or this distribution from a non-qualified is going to affect me? Because tax planning is the biggest value add that we can actually add to a client's portfolio, literally saving them tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars over time. So I urge anyone, look at the tax plan with the financial plan. Sadly, I see people that work with a different firm and they say, just do a Roth conversion for $300,000. And they haven't educated them on why. They haven't created a plan. They haven't educated them, how are you going to pay the taxes from that Roth conversion? And I just feel bad, if people listen to that kind of advice, it's going to blindside them, and it may not be in the best interest of that individual. So make sure whoever you work with, they lead with tax planning. And again, I'm a little bit biased here, but I do think it benefits our clients to have a one-stop shop where they can do everything under one roof. Where if you have a Medicare question, let's walk a few doors over. You want to create a trust in our office, we can do that for you. We can do your tax preparation, your investments, your income planning, your long-term care, all under one roof. And we all collaborate together to benefit who? You, the client. And I think that's the value add that some people are missing these days.
And Jordan, if somebody wanted to attend any upcoming seminars, do you have any on the books, or how can they find out when the next one will be?
Yeah, we have a growing team of advisors and a growing team, and we're looking to kind of grow and help more families live confidently today and plan with purpose for tomorrow. So we're really actively doing workshops over the next few months and next few years. So if they go to our website, they'll kind of see what we have remaining for this year. But in the very next few weeks, we're going to update for 2026 and 2027. And we're all around the Chicagoland area. We're doing webinars and YouTube Live like now. We want to get out there because I believe now more than ever, we have a 4-year window that we really need to do good tax planning, and we really need to help those people that are retiring have more confidence in their financial future.
Okay. And before we say goodbye, I want to ask one more time, and maybe, Jordan, people are feeling shy and don't want to ask their questions. If you pop it in the comments, I will read it, and I won't even say your name. So in case you are a little bit concerned that people might judge you for asking a question, we can do it anonymously as well. But Jordan, as we wait for people to maybe push in any last questions, do you have any final thoughts as we head into this weekend and move into the end of the year?
As we move to the end of the year, I think all of us should just kind of re-examine why we do what we do. What's our purpose in life? I think, this is something that I try to do for myself. What's the vision? What's the purpose of your life? But also we try to ask our clients, or the first time we meet someone, what are your goals? What's your purpose? What's your vision for your family? What is this money going to do to help you? Because a lot of people, they've been conditioned their whole life. That's grow, grow, grow. I like seeing those accounts go up. But what is that money really going to do? Well, it's a tool to help you live your life, spend time with your family, your friends. A lot of people are going to be seeing their families at the end of this month in November, and just really always recalibrate. Why do I work so hard? Why am I having this money grow? Am I going to enjoy this? Is it going to lead to a bigger purpose in helping other people, my family, my friends, my charities? And when you know your purpose and you know your goals, it's a lot easier to have that money be a tool to funnel, to channel, to accomplish those goals, to have more peace of mind and have clarity in what you're doing. And again, our job obviously is to take your money seriously and grow it competitively. But what we really want to have you do is live your best life. We want you to live a life beyond what you thought possible and make every second count. And if we can't do that for you, we're doing you a disservice. Someone asked me a few years back, what are you selling? As I was talking to them, I'm like, I paused for a second. We're selling peace of mind. But until we know what your goals are and what you want out of life, we can't always deliver on that. So examine, what is this money for? The goal is not to be the richest person in the nursing home. The goal is to live a fulfilled life that you enjoy every second, that you have good memories. And I think that will help drive your decisions. And we want to work with people that want to also enjoy life.
And in case anybody watching is wondering, yes, Jordan absolutely practices what he preaches. As Jordan and I were working through some technical bugs to go live on YouTube, I needed his authentication password. And I was like, well, I can give you a call over the weekend. Do you want to do this over the weekend? And he said, no, Erin, you focus on your family. Because again, Jordan, I really appreciate that you have your priorities straight. And it's clearly an example from the top with you. You have incredible people who work with and for you. And shout out to Ava, who's your assistant, who helped us figure out what those gremlins were as we had them. But Jordan, again, thank you for your time. If somebody has lingering questions that they would like to ask to you as opposed to on the YouTube live stream, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can reach out to our main number, 847-499-3454. They can email our team. We have a client advocacy. If they have any concerns or questions, they can reach out to them and Shannon. But ultimately, our goal is to just listen and then hopefully help you accomplish your financial goals. And it's been a pleasure being with you, Erin, and hopefully we'll get more questions in our next go around.
Yeah, I hope so, because I really wanted you to get like some challenging questions. I think maybe I mean, I know you could do it, so it would be fun to really kind of get into the nitty gritty of what people are wondering, what they're concerned about. So we will plan these for the future. We hope that you enjoyed today. And again, thank you to everybody who's watching on the replay as well. And I want to remind you all, there's a great video library. Jordan and I have covered many, many, many topics, so you can consume that information at the comfort of your own pace. And we do have a QR code coming up, so stand by with your phones. Yes, Jordan?
And I have one last thing. Please subscribe. Yeah. We're trying to grow community outreach.
Yeah.
And we want people to take these financial topics seriously so they can have more confidence. So subscribe to YouTube. See if there's anything else that we can do to help you. But the more information we spread out, the more we can help more people. And our long-term vision is to help over 5,000 families have a more confident financial future. And it's a big goal, and it's going to take a lot of time and our entire team to get there. But we appreciate each individual person that kind of spreads the word.
Yes, absolutely. Subscribe and turn on notifications, so the next time we go live, you will get a little ding and you will know that we are talking and we are ready for your questions. So Jordan, again, thank you so much for your time today. And everyone, thank you so much for watching.
Thanks, Erin.